So today's class is about the first unit of our syllabus, that is food science and food service management. So I'm going to start with the first part of it, that is food science. It is familiar to a lot of you because most of you are from the background of food science and nutrition. So this might be something that is already there registered in your mind, but it's a very quick recap, and also it will be very good to refresh your knowledge, right? So let's go through the slides. So we all know that food is a basic need of man. It is related to physical, economical, psychological, intellectual, social, and cultural life of man. Because food is not just for our, for our stomach. It has a lot of roles as a social role, psychological roles, economic, and so on. So the term food refers to anything which we take in to nourish our body. It can include solids, semi-solids, and liquids that are consumed by us to maintain our body and keep it healthy. It is one of the basic necessity, as we have studied in our, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have to discuss that the last or the most basic need of it, physiological needs, food comes first, right? Of course, we need food to survive. So we need food to, for the keeping us healthy, to keep us alive. We need food. So that's a very basic thing. Now, what is food science? Now, food science is a discipline in which the biological and physical sciences and engineering are used to study the nature of foods, the cause of their deterioration, principles underlying food processing. It deals with acquisition of new knowledge to elucidate the course of reactions or changes occurring in foods, whether naturally or induced by handling procedures. Now, this might seem really complicated, but the thing is, we'll discuss what are the components of food, how it is, how it changes when it gets deteriorated, or when there is spoilage, when it is preserved, when it is cooked, and when it is processed. Things like that are discussed in food science. Okay, so it is about the different reactions that takes place, what the compositions are there, etc. So how different processes make different changes in foods. So all these things we'll be discussing in food science. So let's see the different functions of food. Now, the most common or the basic function is physiological function. That is basically with this about our physiological or physical functions. So the physiological functions means, of course, food gives us energy. This is what we have studied from, I think, grade 1 or 2, because that is the basic function of food, is it gives energy. It is meant for body building. Building means, of course, our growth, repair of tissues, muscles, for growth in general. Bodybuilding means growth in general. Of course, food is required. Then protection from diseases, because naturally vitamins, minerals, all these things are called as protective foods, because they have a role in, preventing diseases, protecting us from all sorts of diseases, deficiency diseases, etc. Now, then it is also important in regulation of reproduction, emotional equilibrium, memory, excretion, etc. So food plays a role in almost all walks of our life, because, if the intake of food is not proper, reproduction can be affected, your emotional state, your psychological well-being is affected, then your socially it helps you to function, then psychological functions. So let's see about the different physiological functions. There is, of course, energy giving, body building, protection, and regulation of body processes. So to do any type of activity, whether sitting, thinking, walking, running, all sorts of household works and any other work, you require energy. And it is required for both voluntary as well as involuntary. Now, what is voluntary? Voluntary is those activities which we do it knowingly. Those are called as voluntary activities. And those processes that occur unknowingly, that is the beating of our heart, contraction of the intestine, expansion of lungs, all these things are out of our control. Those processes are called as involuntary processes. So energy is required for both. Okay, that is for both involuntary and voluntary activities. So the mainly energy is obtained from mainly two type of nutrients, that is carbohydrates and fat, which are commonly known as the body fuel. Okay, protein also supplies energy, but then its main function is body building. So that is why carbohydrates and fats are highlighted here for giving energy. So we'll be discussing about the different nutrients and all in the next class, in the coming classes. So that is why I have not included much about nutrients here. Now we know that about growth. Now when growth takes place, new cells are added, and more we are getting the increase in size is there. We are growing, and there is also repair of cells. So all these things, proteins are necessary. Increase in height, weight. We know that we have growing from the time we are, a baby is conceived till the person dies. There is some amount of growth and repair that takes place in the body. So for all these activities that takes place in the body, um, of course proteins are necessary. Then protective functions, that is protection means protection. Then fighting infections or diseases, that is also very important for, that is also a very important role of food. So person eating poor diet will have a poor immunity, and they'll take more time to recover than a person who is healthy. Then regulatory function, that is a role of food in controlling body processes like a beating of our heart, maintenance of body temperature. So we know that we our body temperature is maintained at 37 degrees Celsius, right? Now this has food has a role of even in maintaining of body temperature. Then regulation of all the events or activities that is taking place inside our body. So all these things, food plays a role in maintaining and regulating all these functions. Now that is about the physiological functions. Now talking about the social functions. Now what do you mean by social functions? Food has a role in social functions. That is, if you share food with your friends, or you're offering foods to your guests, so it's a kind of it shows hospitality, it shows friendship. Now food is something that we use to share our feelings of love and friendship towards others. Now it is it is an integral part of festivals. All the festivals like Christmas is associated with cake. For Onam, we know it is about sadhya. Then Diwali, sweets, so many, all the all the celebrations and festivals, religious festivals, other festivals are all, there is some connection with food. There will be some food which is associated with these festivals. If it's like in the US, in the Western countries like Thanksgiving, it is associated with the turkey. It's like so many things are there which food is related to. So food has got a lot of significance in the religious context, and also sweets and prasad are distributed at the end of religious functions in temples. So there is a lot of religious practices are associated with food. So socially it helps you to connect with others. There is an identity for food that we give a lot of value to food, so that is why it has a lot of social functions. Then psychological functions, it gives a sense of comfort, love, security, attention. When you're giving food to somebody, it means that you love them, you care for them. Then also, when there are a lot of people who think that if you eat your favorite food, you feel good about yourself, right? You feel a sense of comfort. Then about homely foods, we have this attachment of when you're staying away from your home in your hostel, you have a longing for your mother's food, right? Because not just because of the taste, because it shows some sort of an attachment, a comfort, a security. Then of course sharing a food, friendly get together. So it is associated with emotions, and is also used for reward and punishment. So that in small kids, we give them like we tell them, if you be a good girl and I'll give you a chocolate. If not, you won't get your chocolate or a sweet. So we get it as a reward or punishment. Such things are food is associated with lot of things. And of course our mood is also affected with food. Good food means good mood. Next comes to classification of foods. Now these are the which we have mentioned about earlier, that is energy giving foods, bodybuilding foods, and protective foods. Now energy giving foods, mostly it is carbohydrates and fats, mostly cereals, roots and tubers, dry fruits, sugars, fats, all sorts of fats like butter, ghee, oil. All these comes under energy giving foods. Now bodybuilding foods is all about protein, milk, meat, fish, egg, etc. And of course pulses, oil seeds, nuts. Then protective foods is all about vitamins and minerals, that is all our fruits and vegetables. Then eggs, liver, green leafy vegetables, all those foods which are rich in vitamins and minerals are termed as protective foods. So these are the basic three classification. Now there are more to it. Like foods are grouped together because of their certain amounts of nutrients present in them. There is a classification by the Indian Council for Medical Research which is called as ICMR. Now this is the five food group classification which is used for um, which is used for a lot of purposes. That is basic five food groups. It is used for planning diet and things like that. So let's discuss what are the basic five food groups. Now let's see. That is, first is cereals and cereal products. Like cereals, the first food group is cereals and cereal products, which is comes under the if you see it, you take it as a pyramid. You have a food guide pyramid, right? This was used from long back. So this is, when you see this pyramid, the end of the pyramid or the base of the pyramid is composed of all the cereals and cereal products, because these are the foods that we eat the most. Okay, so let's see. So cereals and cereal products is rice, wheat, ragi, maize, bajra, rice flakes, wheat flour, sprouted cereals. All these comes under cereals and cereal products. Now they provide mainly energy, then some fat, some B vitamins, iron, calcium, fiber, and protein. Now these are foods which we eat in bulk. That is, we eat, like people who are eating rice in South India, we eat rice a lot. So rice is we eat in the highest quantity, right? The next group is pulses and legumes. That is our all our peas, beans and peas, Bengal gram, black gram, cowpea, peas, the soya bean. All these comes under all the dal varieties comes in pulses and legumes. Now they provide mostly protein, then energy, some fat, thiamine or vitamin B1, riboflavin or vitamin B2, folic acid, calcium, iron, and fiber. Now that is the next category of foods. Now the third category is milk and meat products, which are mainly, we see that it is a non-vegetarian group. In the whole of the pyramid, it is the only non-vegetarian group, that is milk and meat products. So all these, it consists of milk, skim milk, cheese, curd, yogurt, then chicken, fish, liver, then egg, meat, all sorts of meat and milk products. So it is mostly giving us protein and fat, and some amount of riboflavin and riboflavin, then calcium, then some vitamins and minerals. Okay, that's so. Then the fourth category is fruits and vegetables. It consists of all the fruits and vegetables. So it can be divided into two. First is the green leafy vegetable category, which is all the leafy vegetables like amaranth, spinach, fenugreek leaves, coriander leaves, curry leaves, drumstick leaves, all those things, all the green leafy stuffs. Then the next category is other vegetables. Whatever is not included in the green leafy vegetables, carrot, onion, brinjal, lady's finger, all the other all the other vegetables comes under other vegetables. Now these provide a lot of vitamins and minerals like folic acid, iron, fiber, riboflavin, so many, all the minerals and vitamins. It is rich in vitamins and minerals. Now the last category which you should eat in the least is fats and sugars. Now fats is basically butter, ghee, all sorts of cooking oil. Then sugars is your sugar, jaggery, honey, all those things comes under fats and sugars. They basically provide a lot of energy, then some fatty acids and fat soluble vitamins, and also some amount of iron and other minerals also. So this is the category of food groups. Now there is another category which is the basic four. We just discussed about the basic five. Now another group has also been proposed by ICMR again here. There is the basic four. Here it has been like the first group is intact. The second group is milk and animal products. Instead of meat products, they said animal products, because it means all the egg and all the fish and all these things are also included here. The next is the same with vegetables and fruits. The fourth category is oils, fruits, fats, and nuts. So instead of the second, the nuts are coming here instead of the second category. Here it is coming oil, fat, nuts. Okay, so this is the fourth ICMR basic four food groups. Okay. So here you can see the difference here as the fats and sugars and the pulses and legumes kind of things have been mixed and matched. So that is in the first category, cereals, millets, and pulses are included in the first category, and nuts are coming in the last category or the fourth category, because nuts are mostly fatty in nature. That is why nuts are included in this category. So this is the basic 4, and it is a little different from basic 3. Basic 5. So this is the food guide pyramid. You can see that at the top we have all the oils and fats. Then comes the meat category. Then comes the fruits and vegetables, and last comes the cereals, millets, flour, etc. Okay. So what is the significance of 5 food group system or food group system in general? It is of course important for planning balanced menu to achieve nutritional adequacy, because we want to get, or when you are planning meals, or when you're planning a balanced food menu, what we do is we pick items from all the 5 groups. Then we see that okay, it is somewhat adequate, we can say that it is balanced. So then that is very important. Then assessing nutritional status. Now when you ask somebody, you're going for a research in nutritional science, at nutritional status of people, how do you know that a person is having a good nutritional status or not, other than just by visual inspection? You're asking that person, do you eat these foods? Do you eat food from the pulse category? Do you eat vegetables and fruits? Do you eat meat? So when you ask that person, if the person says no for all these things, I have not had any green leafy vegetables the whole year, then naturally that person might be lacking in a lot of nutrients, right? So that is how you assess nutritional status, by giving by taking a brief history of that person. Then let's move on to the next category. There is physical properties of food. Now physical properties are the characteristics of foods which are visible and detectable. Now includes physically means when you're looking at it, what we can see, that is the color, the shape, size, then viscosity, density, all these things are the physical properties of food. Now let's come to another term here, which is I have not given much of any I'm not giving a lot of explanation for color, size, shape, etc., because naturally we know what is the color, shape, etc. Now let's move on to a term which some of you might know, some of you might be not so familiar with. It is called rheology. Now rheology is the study of stress and strain, or it is the study of flow and deformation of materials, both liquids and solids, under stress and strain condition. So rheology is how a material acts when you are keeping it under stress, or when you are applying some force to it. So there are 3 aspects. One is elasticity, plasticity, and viscosity. Okay.
Sorry.
Now the flow characteristics of the food are actually quite complex. For example, if you see when you're kneading a dough for a bread, now you can see that it's supposed to be elastic, right? When you stretch the bread dough, especially when you have added a lot of the yeast, and it has leavened in size, it has doubled or tripled in size, the bread dough which you have kept it. So when you are kneading it, what happens is when you stretch it, it will just spring back to its original position, right? So that means it is elastic. Elastic is a characteristic of importance in baked products. So such as crumb of bread and cake, especially so, and they are fresh. So elasticity is the the process, like when you are characteristics, like when you are baking some foods, when like elastic means it comes to the natural position. That is, when you're stretching it, when you release it, it springs back to the natural position. That is called as elastic. But plastic means the opposite. You can change the shape however you want to, but it will not retain that original position. That is called as plastic. Means it's like you have a clay, right? When you model clay with you can make it into any shape you want, but it won't go to the original position. That is, if you are having a chapati dough, you are when you are rolling it out, you have made chapatis, and then after that it becomes plastic. It's not, you can't now change, I mean, it doesn't come back to its original position, but you can change the position. I mean, you can change the shape or nature of it. That is called as plastic. Now the next term is viscosity. Now viscosity is the resistance to flow of a liquid. Now when you compare honey and water, you can see that honey is very thick, right? It resists the flow of fluid, like it kind of under sheer stress, it is when you pour some honey onto a plate and you're trying to tilt it, the honey flows very slowly compared to water. The water moves very fast, like, so that is called as thickness or resistance to pouring. Now it has some internal resistance. So water is very thin, having low viscosity. Some, and of course, oil, if you see, compared to water, oil is thicker or having higher viscosity. And when you compare honey again, it was having even more viscosity. Now, when you talk about viscosity, there are other terms coming up, that is Newtonian fluids and non-Newtonian fluids. This term might be new to a lot of people. So please write it down. This is important. Newtonian fluids and non-Newtonian fluids. Now a Newtonian fluid is one in which the viscosity does not depend on the shear rate. No matter what shear is applied, the viscosity stays the same. Meaning, when you change shear rate means how you when you are changing the velocity from one, like when you are passing the fluid from one layer to another, when you're changing the speed of it. For example, I'll tell you a very beautiful example, that is in the case of people who you have made cakes, whipped cream. Okay, cream, when you whip cream, all the when you're making cream cakes with whipped cream or fresh cream, what you do is you beat it, right? You beat your cream so much, and then what happens is the viscosity will change when you initially when you see the whipped cream, when you have it in the packet, it's a kind of a thick liquid, right? It is a thick liquid, and then what you do is you take it into a bowl and you beat it, right, with an egg beater or a electric beater or a hand beater or whatever you use. You might beat it with your hand also, but the way you beat it increases its viscosity, right? And it becomes more thick when the cream is whipped. So naturally it is a non-Newtonian liquid. Means it non-Newtonian means it is related to the change of velocity at which one layer of fluid passes over an adjacent layer. That is, when the whipped cream is beaten, the different layers of the cream will go it will move past each other, right? So that is why it is called as a non-Newtonian fluid. So when it is in when there is no beating occur, when when you're not beating it, when you're just having it as such, it is just a thick fluid compared to, and you can pour it, but after you have whipped it, it is hard to pour. When you have reached the stage of a hard peak stage, right? When you when you are applying the cream to your cake, it is in the beaten stage, means it's very it's very stiff, so it's not easy to pour it. It doesn't pour like a liquid. So that is why it is called as a non-Newtonian liquid. Means it does not depend on the shear rate. But some liquids, for example, mineral oil or water, for example, no matter what you do with it, it will pour. If you beat it, it doesn't make any difference. So it is a example of a Newtonian liquid. Means whatever the shear rate, it doesn't matter. You can pour it. This viscosity remains the same. Okay, so that is Newtonian and non-Newtonian fluids. Now let's come to the chemical properties of foods. Now chemical compositions of foods means what is the chemical makeup of food? Now a food is made up of many different chemicals, right? Now a lot of things are affecting foods, like the pH value. If it is the food is acidic or alkaline, then there are a lot of flavor compounds in foods. For example, like when you are eating your peppermint, it has a particular taste. Menthol in it, that is the kind of chemical which is present, which is giving that peppermint that flavor. Then cinnamon has cinnamaldehyde, that is giving it the particular taste of cinnamon. Then vanilla or ice cream vanilla has vanillin component in it. Then citrus fruits has limonene, which is giving that citrus taste. That is about flavor compounds in foods. Then there are pigments in foods, so those are also chemical in nature. That anthocyanin, which gives that red color to grapes, cabbage, etc. Then carotenoids, which gives a yellow color to carrots, mangoes, etc. Then betanin, which gives beetroot its color. Curcumin is giving turmeric its yellow color. So all those pigments are there. Then some enzymes are there. For example, papain is an enzyme in green papaya. Then bromelain is there in pineapple. So these are also there in our foods. Then of course, another chemical properties, of course, nutrients, which we'll be discussing in detail. So I'm not giving any explanation here. So nutrients are also a part of the food, right? Naturally, all foods are made up of nutrients. So nutrients are also a part of it is chemical in nature, because you know that carbohydrate means carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, right? Then proteins have sulfur, and so lot of all these nutrients are basically chemical in nature. Now, let's discuss about the quality attributes of foods. Now, quality attributes means, how do you define quality? Now, quality is defined as a degree of excellence and includes such things as taste, appearance, nutritional content. It is a composite of characters that have significance, which makes the product acceptable. So, when you see a product, when you see a food product, what do you mean when you say that it's a good quality product? When you're eating certain foods, like for example, when you're buying fruits from a market, you look at it, right? You see if it is rotten naturally, you say that it's bad quality. You see, look at the color of it, its firmness, the size of it, all those things. Then the smell, the taste, all those things can affect the quality. So physical senses are included in quality. So when you are assessing the food product by means of human sense organ, the evaluation is said to be sensory or subjective or organoleptic. These three terms are very important: sensory, subjective, organoleptic. Now, organoleptic means when you are using your organs, your sense organs to assess a food. And sensory, it is something to do with your senses. Subjective, it is subjective in nature, because it is different from different people. Some people might like the taste of bitter gourd, some people might find it often like very yucky. So it is different. So subjective means it is different for different people. Some people might want a lot of sugar in their tea, some people might just need a pinch of sugar. So these are subjective. So that is how one person might say that if tea is tasting really good if there is little sugar in it, but another person says it's very dumb because it doesn't have any sugar, it is very little sugar. So that is why it is called subjective. Now, talking about sensory quality is a combination of different senses of perception coming into play in choosing and eating foods. So each time a food is eaten, a judgment is made, right? So a wide range of vocabulary is used to describe your sensory characteristics of food products, such as odor, the smell, the taste, appearance, texture, etc. So mainly you can categorize as three: appearance factors, textural factors, and flavor factors. Now, sensory characteristics. So sensory, like all those visual means, for example, if you are going to the market and you are choosing a food product, you want to buy chips, or you want to buy potato chips. Now, what all do you look for? The package appearance, the product appearance, the color, the shape, all these things you look into, right? How does it look? If the chips are all broken, you see that it's all broken. Do you look? I mean, will you buy it? Of course not. Even though the taste might be the same, it might have the same amount of chips in it, but you look at it and you don't feel like buying it. Then the touch, the feeling of the touch, for example, the cake or a pudding, how it should feel, right? If a cake is like where it's extremely hard, you don't accept it. Then the temperature, if your rice is really cold, do you like it? Of course not. Then texture, how it feels, like the softness. So it is excess, texture is mainly about our touch, the physical contact with food. Then how crunchy it is, how chewy it is. Some foods needs to be crunchy. Your chips should be crisp. Then your chocolate should be, some chocolates, Kit Kat should be crunchy, or Munch should be crunchy, because that is how it's supposed to be. Then chewiness, some food should be, how chewy your meat is chewy. Gustatory is something to do with the taste of the food. So that is the term is gustatory. It refers to taste sensation. So when a food is placed in the mouth, naturally the skin will react, and you will feel that the taste of the food. Then olfactory, something to do with your nose, your food. The mainly before you even taste or look at the food, the smell comes it, right? So when you are frying something, naturally the smell of it catches your attention. Naturally you will feel like eating it. So that is olfactory. Then auditory, sound when consumed. Like when you eat chips, you are naturally, there is some sound that should be produced, right? Some crispy crunchy foods. So that is auditory. Now, how do you analyze foods? Now, there are various methods to conduct sensory analysis of foods. Like different methods are there, like panel members, professional panel members are there to analyze foods, especially in food industries and all. It is some people are professionally trained to do sensory analysis, and it is a very complex process. So you might think that it's just tasting food. No, it is not like that. It needs a lot of, training, and, it's supposed to have a lot of, it is a very systematic process. Now, mainly there are different, three different types of tests are used. Preference test means, for example, two products will be given, like two variants. If you are producing a new product, and then you have you do a two different variants, if you are doing a chocolate bar, you're using a particular product, your particular ingredient in one. For example, you are using chocolate, you're using a pure chocolate in one, and another with a little amount of coffee. So you are asking the person which is more preferred, which is more acceptable. You can rate it as a preference. Then the difference, can a difference be detected? For example, if you're adding 5% of coffee, then 15% of coffee, then 30% of coffee, can you detect the difference between them? Then the third one is descriptive test. How do you rank the organoleptic properties? Now, organoleptic properties means, like when you say there are these, the taste, the smell, the texture, appearance, how do you rate it? You are giving a hedonic scale and all. That is, you are given some, like you're asked to give your score. How you going to score it based on your preferences? So there are certain terms that in other words, there are terms that you can use, to check your appearance, the taste, flavors, texture, etc. Like when you are presented a food, a person might be asked to tick whatever is most suitable. Like, is it appetizing, is it colorful, is it fizzy, is it flat, is it round, is it smooth? So all these things comes under appearance. And taste, how is the taste? Is it fruity, is it spicy, is it strong, is it tart, is it weak? Aroma, what is the type of smell that is coming in? Then texture, how is it crispy, crumbly, etc. Now, there are different types of tests, that is discriminative or difference test, then descriptive analysis, then preference test, then hedonic tests are done. So let's see. So hedonic test is about, it is the most commonly used 9-point scale, like which is giving you food is presented to you, and you are giving a scale of from extremely like to extremely dislike, and a person, the people oriented with the test is given. Mostly the panel members are, this test is conducted to 50 or more number of people, because one is because we know that taste is a subjective thing, right? So we can't make a conclusion by taking a very small group of people, because if 10 people like it, doesn't mean that the lot of the large group of population likes it. So we have to do this test at least on 50 and above people. So it is done for children also. We know, they're given like smileys and emoticons for them to express their liking towards a particular foods. So this is like how you this is how you do the testing of sensory evaluation of foods.